Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Aurora 4X C# 2.1. I'm going to get my timer started and let's continue on with trying to, well, we completed the refits now. So it's mostly just trying to finish getting our missiles built as well as expanding our industry further. But of course, we can't have peace and quiet. The Sol system continues to get threatened, and we will continue to describe these as military exercises. Luckily, in this case, we don't have to worry about our stuff being shot. So, movement contacts here follow at 175,000 kilometers. And actives on. We're not going to bother sending out the fighters because honestly there's not much of a reason to send the fighters out. Especially because in this case we know that there is the escort still. The Charung. Or Charug? However the hell it's pronounced. I could change the name if I wanted to of the class to something that I might have a bit of an easier time saying. But quite frankly, I don't care enough to do that, so we're not going to. Let's go ahead. It is now deciding to run away. We are not yet detecting the escort, which is not... There we go. Not something I'd like to see. There we go. We detected and then we lost it, which is not fun. That is admittedly somewhat surprising that we managed to apparently lose. There we go. I don't know how we're losing the escorts. We should have zero trouble detecting them with active sensors. But, whatever. For some reason, we keep losing them. I don't know why. Although now that they're in our Resolution 1 sensors, they can't escape. I can only assume it has to do with their size. Well, no, you got an active sensor signature of 7100. The big thing is you got apparently a 90% cloak reduction. Jesus. So that is a very effective cloak, because we technically have none right now, because we haven't researched any. We do, however, have some points. Where'd it go? Here we go. Into 75%. I can only assume that is the reason why that we were losing them, is because of that cloak reduction. That ludicrous cloak reduction of 90%. Now, the big thing here is that we need to avoid accidentally closing in on 75, or excuse me, into 160,000 kilometers. Because if we close into that, then they can fire on us. So we need to avoid that. First things first, we're going to prioritize target on the Tekka, because that is the one that carries the longest range armament. Boom. There we go. We fired 8 shots from the Albany, 8 shots from the Astoria, 12 shots for the Abercrombie, 12 more shots from the Acre, 21 hits, 20 hits to the armor, 1 penetrated. And with our nice fancy 10-second fire rate, we get more shots off. So there we go, 8, 8, 12, 12 again, 15 hits, 14 to the armor, 1 penetration. Still not getting a ton of penetrations, but we're also not really firing super accurate shots. So the reality is a good chunk of what we're firing is straight up just missing. You know, we fired, what is that, like 40 shots this round, but only 18 were hits. Yeah, unless my math is off, we're firing 40 shots every time, but, you know, we're lucky to have half of those hit. But that's partly because we're keeping our distance, you know. We're, whoops, hanging out at 100, well, it looks like 170 actually right now. Yeah, about 170,000-ish kilometers, which is a decent distance. You know, our guys are not super accurate. What is the speed on this thing? Well, technically right now the speed is 2188, so we'll go with plug that in. Whoops. And we will do range band of, yeah, 10,000 is fine, I think. And I believe this is 10,000 each from left to right, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's not quite what I want. Let's do 30. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180. Yeah, so theoretically the Albanese have sort of somewhere between 38 and 25 as a hit chance. Which would make sense because, at least in the case of them, they're lucky to get, like, let's see. Looks like, well, no, that's not quite right. I don't believe. Yeah, either way, they're not particularly accurate. Oh, here we go. Chance to hit 51%. Okay, and the Albany has had a maintenance issue crop up on one of its 15-centimeter railguns. Oh, the Tekka has dropped out. We've apparently hit its engines or something. It is a shame that we don't have our assault stuff ready to go. I would love to assault that. Maybe next time. Okay, we've got them. Let's get the Yaic. 6 penetrating hits. 6 more. That was 20. Okay, holy shit. Great job, guys. And that is the Yaic dealt with. Now we can close in on the Charug because it doesn't have defenses. It has no weapons. It is a troop transport. So it has no reason to need weapons, as a sort of general rule of thumb. At best, it would have a Sea Whiz. But that wouldn't help it in this case, even if it did have that. And the main reason why we're closing in on it is just because it's going to take a lot more shots. It is a significantly larger vessel at a little over 57,000 tons compared to the 71 of the Yaic and the 71, well, we'll just round and say 7,100 as well for the Tekka. This thing is significantly larger, thus it's going to have a ton more armor. And dealt with. There we go. That is a nice, clean operation. And that is basically what we can expect going forward dealing with the raiders. You know, unless something changes and they just magically get some much better equipment and we need to refit again with even better stuff. The reality is the Raiders are not really going to be a threat to us anymore. We can practically ignore them. There we go. Naval Shipyard Complex completed. This is Marg Steel Company. Good for you guys. I need you to get to 46,000. So just do continual upgrades until you hit that. And when you do hit that, we will tell you to retool for our assault carriers. Speaking of them, did I remember to actually do the marine stuff between parts? I don't think I did. No, I did. Okay. So that's roughly what our marine platoons will look like. 14 LMGs, a platoon, HQ, and then 24 normal marines. Of course, I say normal, they are wearing heavy-powered infantry armor for the simple reason that there's less of them. So I think they benefit significantly from the extra armor. That is the only reason why I gave them the heavy infantry armor. Now, I would love to get advanced damage control, and we might do a minor refit of our stuff potentially to add that. You know, it helps out with the ship doing emergency damage repairs. Excuse me. Something got caught in my throat or something. Okay, salvage fleet has completed its operations. I can tell them to go ahead and, on Earth, unload all of the components, unload all the minerals, and then, hey, I got some more jobs for you guys. And we'll just wait for you to finish all of that, because quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. Okay, 4 more orbital defenses completed on Earth. Wonderful. We don't really need to bother with actually sending those out right now, however. Because actually every planet that we have has one. Earth is just going to have 4 for the time being. Although I can double check that, but I'm pretty sure everybody has the orbital defense now. When it comes to colonized worlds. Correct. 2 on Alpha Centauri. 2 on Syseti B1, 2 on Syseti A2, 4 currently on Earth, 2 on the Moon, and 2 on Mars. And of course, the reality is if the aliens ever actually get close to Earth, yeah, they're going to be potentially needing to deal with, depending on where they approach from. Being shot at from both the Moon and Earth at the same time. Of course, the aliens will never actually come to Earth because the fleet is in orbit, and that's going to scare them off, generally speaking. So, yeah. That is where the 2 schools of thought basically come in. You can defend your stuff by either putting a fleet in orbit, which is certainly an option. And the other option is, of course, to put down STOs. And the reality is you need a fleet anyway, so to an extent, there's no reason not to just use the fleet. But a fleet is also significantly more expensive. So that's one of the reasons that the math kind of works out that, honestly, STOs are generally a valid option. Let's go ahead and get those missiles finished if we can. That way we can start equipping our ships with them. Which, speaking of, I think I forgot to actually update the templates to say to use the new missiles, so I'll Next time the game pauses, I'll do that. It's not that big of a deal. Quick Reaction Force 1 seems to be having a bit of a problem with maintenance for some reason today. But they have plenty of supplies, so they should be okay for quite a while. But since we're here, let's go ahead and update the designs here, because you guys are not using the Escarcino Mackenzies, you are using the Russell Armaments. There we go. And get the game ticking along again. Continuing to drop off colonists. Something slowed the game down a little bit there. I do not know why Quick Reaction Force 1 in particular seems to be having some significant issues with supplies. I'm going to tell them to just come back to Earth, refuel and resupply, and just kind of relax for a little bit. But they seem to be having issues in orbit of Siceti A2 for some reason. At the very least, Quick Reaction Force 2 over Alpha Centauri is not having... Oh, no, never mind. I never sent them back out. That's my fault. I thought I sent them out. But no, I only sent Reaction Force 1 to go and help with Siceti, because there was that single lone raider that was flying around. Let's see, do I want to start researching the mining production, the next level? Because we really need it. I would love to need to have less mines on a planet to be able to get the resources, especially because of Galsite. We do not have any particularly great sources of Galsite. Basically everywhere, as a reminder that we can get Galsite from, with the exception of Mars here, which has a 0.6, so, you know, slightly above average, basically. Basically, any other source of Galsite is a 0.1, which means it is basically garbage. We have tons of it, ludicrous amounts. You know, you look at these 62 million units of Galsite on 96 Leonis A1. You know, that would literally last us an entire campaign, because there is no way in hell I can see myself actually using up 62 million units of Galsite. If we exhausted all the Galsite on on 96 Leonis A, 96 Leonis A1, we would basically be set for the rest of the campaign. Because the reality is, I do not see the series running long enough for me to use up 62 million units of Galsite. I really don't. You know, 4 million off of Venus, that on its own, sure, we would probably exhaust that at some point. 62 million? Probably not. But 96 Leonis is so far away, for one, and the only way to get that Galsite, for us, would be automated mines, which means we need the corundium. And guess where we get the corundium from? In our case, Lalande. But Lalande only has 7 million. The reality is, corundium is the other resource that we have significant issues with getting large quantities of. Again, Siceti B1 has 9 million at 0.6. Pretty damn good. But it'll still take us a while to get through that. And we're not mining it particularly quickly. We only have, I think, like 2, yeah. I mean, we're getting more mines there, but it's still only like 200 at the end of the day. Actually, right now they are suffering from a straight-up worker shortage. They need more people there to use up all the mines that we're dropping off. And that's going to be a little while. Out of curiosity, let's turn on the civilians. Are we having a bunch of freighters there? Freighters there. I can tell they're freighters because they use the F designation. Colony ships will say CS. Or, well, excuse me. They say FT. Colony ships will generally say CS. I don't know what the SL is. That I really don't know about. And I don't have a means of looking at it. At least not easy. What is this? This is a space liner. Okay, so that's not a colony ship. In fact, it looks like we may not have any colony ships on the civilian side. Which, if so, is... Oh no, we have a ton, but they're just not going anywhere, apparently. I don't know why. You know, there's plenty of places. City B1 is a destination of colonists, and it is not in a military-restricted system, nor is it a military-restricted colony. Earth is set as a source of colonists, so, you know, there's... You know, you can pick people up off of Earth, Mars, the Moon, and fly them off to City, but apparently all of our civilian colony ships are just saying, nah, I'm just going to stay around Earth. Damn it. Keep clicking right next to the close. In fact, looks like actually we also have some colony ships hanging out around Mars as well. But yeah, so just for some reason, the civilian colony ships are refusing to do anything. Something's going on that's triggering 1-day increments every so often. That was a 4-day. Don't know what is causing that. I assume it's the Raiders, probably getting picked up by some sort of passive sensor from somebody, but it's not enough that the game is saying I'm going to pause. We are going to go ahead and get the shipyard operations for cutting down on retooling time. And that was the ground force construction rate. Now, what I could do... Okay, you're already at 19,000. What I could do is go ahead and start getting our Marines built. But the main thing when it comes to the Marines is that they really do clutter up our menu for picking people up. So it's a question of, do I want to go ahead and build them? Or do I want to wait until I've built the assault carrier? Then I can build the shuttles relatively quickly. And the Marines themselves won't take very long. They only have a cost of 25. They're super easy to build. Like, you know, we'll just pump those numbers out. In fact, I think technically we probably lose a ton of production efficiency actually building the Marines. Or, you know, building the Marine platoons. Because we do have the ground construction of 1,000. And I think it's just the way the game works, is that I think a lot of that production actually just ends up getting lost during the process. Because I I don't believe it carries over to the next unit in the queue. Otherwise, we'd build them in like a day. Because I believe that's done on a... I believe that's done on like a daily basis or something, so... Yeah. Let's see. So the reality is I have no general reason to bother tracking missiles. The AI doesn't use them, or at least the raiders aren't. But I'm pretty sure the AI doesn't use them in general. But I could be incorrect on that assessment. I probably am, if we're being honest. But either way, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and continue getting colony cost reduction, because that is a fairly nice bonus, especially when I don't have anything else that I need to desperately get researched. Civilian ship got scrapped. Oh, are you guys scrapping all of your civilian colony ships? I don't think that's the case, because that's taking you forever to get that done. So I really don't think that's the case. But it's possible it just takes you guys forever to scrap. It's a possibility. I just don't think it's very likely. And there is the better armor. So theoretically, if I wanted to, let's just say for shits and giggles, I wanted to design a brand new Akagi already for a minor refit. We would go from 53,000 tons with 5 to 109 armor to 52,531 tons with 5 to 108. Which I say it's 5 to 108. I don't think that's strictly true, actually. This has a naming convention, or, you know, we'll just refer to it as a naming convention, that I don't frankly recall off the top of my head what it is, and I can't be bothered to go and look it up right this second. But either way, that's almost 500 tons of weight savings. And then, you know, I can use that weight for various things. I could, you know, even just slap more armor on there if I really wanted to. Do I need it? God, no. But I could do it. And that's the important bit. The reality is, I don't think there's anything I can do with just an extra 500 tons that really matters. Well, that's not strictly true. I could add some more hangar decks. If I wanted to add a magazine... Yeah, that's a no-go. That's like fucking 4.5 thousand tons, we'll just say, or round for the sake of simplicity. That ain't gonna cut it. Unless I do a tiny magazine. But this is like not even a single reload of our strike fighters. At least of a full complement of them. Depends a little on how large I end up going, but nonetheless. Now what I will do actually is I will update the armor on the strike fighters. We haven't built them yet, so why the hell not? And so that saves us 4 tons, and I'm actually going to delete that copy of the Akagi because I don't need it. We're not using it at this time. So, question is, what do I do with a spare 4 tons? There's really not much to do with a spare 4 tons, and I really want a nice even number to work with. So 396 tons is not a nice even number to work with. 400 is. Or 300. Or maybe 350. But 396, not really. So I think what we'll end up doing is we're probably just going to slap a little bit of extra fuel on. Unless I can slap some extra armor on and still be... not quite. That would take me over unless I remove 13 tons of weight, which would be removing fuel. Which I could do. The reality is you don't need 3 days worth of fuel. Mostly because you're not hanging around. But you also shouldn't be getting close enough that you need to worry about armor. The reality is any size 4 missile I design is going to have more than sufficient. 1 second. Okay, and we're back. I just needed to pull this up. So yeah, I mean, if I wanted to design a size 4 missile, I could design it like this and still have my 46 billion kilometer range. Or, well, actually, the thing is the fire control, which, yeah, that has the 46. But the active sensor is only 3.5, but technically you don't need to use your active sensors. I could drop the range down to like 3 if I really wanted to, sure, and have you use your active sensors on these missiles. But you technically don't need to. That was one of the reasons why I was considering early warning craft in the past. But the reality is it's not really necessary. I'm not generally going to be sending out the fighters unless something is detecting it with active sensors. At least when it comes to the strike fighters. I should note that. Now, out of curiosity, how does this compare against our current missiles? Missiles, there we go. So this would actually be, so if I were to design a size 4, 3 million kilometer range missile with a size 8 warhead, is that correct, or did we research the cobalt? I thought we researched the cobalt, and I think I might have just forgotten to update my sheet. Or, update the software. Yes, we did get the cobalt warhead, so let's go ahead and do that. That changes the numbers just a tad, and just a tad is a bit generous. It goes from 87,000 kilometers with a strength 8 warhead to 93. There's an extra 6,000 kilometers. That is pretty significant, all things considered. The reality is I'd probably just do it as a 3. There's no reason for you guys to have a missile that is significantly longer range than your active sensors. The main question for me is, how does that affect the Gaussite cost? It is about 3 Gaussite cheaper per missile to go with the longer range. But it is significantly more fuel efficient to go with the shorter range. As you can see here, 250 fuel versus 1,300. Then the tritium cost doesn't change at all. Yeah, I'd probably just go with this, realistically. Because there's just no reason for me to do any other option. For our strike fighter missiles. So this is probably more or less what I would design. It's not necessarily what I will use right this second. Well, technically, I guess it would just be the AIM 43. I'm planning to use the AIM designation for strike fighter missiles and the RIM designation for ship-fired. Makes life just a tad easier to keep the designs separate. So let's go ahead and save you to the archive. And so, yeah. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. That is a ludicrously fast missile. Like, I have zero reason to have a missile that fast. But there's no reason not to have a missile that fast in this case. So why the hell not? The curiosity, if I wanted to design a brand new large one, what would that look like? I'm not going to, of course, but just out of curiosity, it would be about an extra 3,000 kilometers a second, which, yeah, it's whatever. It's definitely not worth designing a new one. Now we can go ahead and continue researching our further armor, if we wanted to. That will take a little while to research, but it technically doesn't hurt. Because we don't have any other immediate calls, but 60 centimeter carronades, those do call for me, so that the next time I have to design new ground troops, at the very least they're going to be significantly better in terms of weaponry. And carronades are like the cheapest technology to research to improve that. You won't use them on a ship. There's zero reason to use them on a ship. But technically they work well enough for ground forces. It was a 2-day increment for whatever reason, and there we go. Marg Steel Company has reached its its target capacity. So, Marg Steel Company, you're going to retool. Make sure I get the name right. It is the Albion. So you're going to retool for the CVH. But before we do that, let's update the armor. Because why not? Why not update the armor? And then we're going to go ahead and knock off 9 pounds, I think. Or excuse me, 9 tons. Because again, why not? Might as well save ourselves a little bit. And make you a tad bit faster. Although admittedly, shaving off 9 tons is kind of difficult because they don't have a straight 9 tons anywhere. I really don't have a straight 9 tons anywhere. And I can't really give you another engine. Because this engine is 2,000 tons. So what do I do? I can either kick you back up to 46,000. Which, I mean, that is a valid option. I can give you a bit extra armor, but that really doesn't matter because you should not ever be approaching the enemy directly. You literally have no armament of your own. It's not a... I was going to say, I could do that, but that's not a particularly great option, all things considered, either. I could give you a single railgun. Excuse me, that is the 10 centimeter railgun, so go with the smaller one. And a power plant that is intended for a fighter. I don't think that's a particularly great option, all things considered. I really don't. So, yeah, we're not going to do that. I'm just, I think, going to increase your weight back up to the 46. And I think in this case, it's going to be giving you extra fuel tanks. Let's take that off. Small, tiny. Couple of fighters. That gets you up to 235 days from, I think you were at like 207 or something. So that helps quite a bit. Also, let's go ahead and update the armor on the theoretically future design for a carrier. But the Africa is still just probably in the future. And let's also make sure to update these fighters to just be name plus number. And you don't need any designation for prefix because you're just a fighter. Well, you're a shuttle. You're not flying anywhere on your own. So, okay, let's go ahead and now actually tell you to retool for the CVH Albion. And I want you to go ahead and build one of those for me. And if there's any components you can use, feel free to use it. Now, why is it the Barnstable County that is being the first one built? That doesn't quite seem right. Yeah, that doesn't quite seem right. Ah, I see why. I think I forgot to update the, where's the Albion? There we go, it's Royal Navy Amphibious Crafts. Yes, I forgot to switch this to the correct name. I want Royal Navy Amphibious Ships, not U.S. Navy U.S. Navy Amphibious Ships. So there we go. Now the first one will be the Albion. So construction unassigned as ships. Use any components that potentially exist and get that out. Let's go here. Fighters. I want you to build me 40 of these things. And you're going to put them into the carrier reserves. Because technically that fits. In the meantime, we will also have the ground troops, or well, the ground unit training facilities, go ahead and pump out a whole bunch of Marine platoons. Next time, we have one of those alien ships that has dropped out from sticking with the rest of the fleet. We will be capable of boarding it. The aliens will regret having threatened Earth further. Let's see, fighter production, don't need fuel, don't need jump point, don't need really any of these unless it's research and shipbuilding. Those are helpful, but not strictly necessary at this time. We are slowly working on that mining production. God, that one takes forever to research at this point. But we need it. Because I need to be able to cut down on the number of mines I have to use for stuff. Let's go ahead and get some better ECM. Because why not? Well, I think that might have been ECCM we just researched, but either way. Let's get some better ECM and ECCM. Because both of them are helpful. It doesn't really matter what order we research them in. Admittedly, one is more useful than the others. Okay, the Marines have finished, but we're still actually waiting on the actual shuttles for them. Also, picking up the Marines is going to be a real pain in the ass. I'm going to be completely honest. It is going to be an absolute freaking pain in the ass. But we need to do it We need to do it. So this is going to be, for now, we're just going to call it BP1 for boarding party 1, just for now. I'll try to come up with some other naming convention that fits down the road, but load up all of the Marine platoons. What was that one that we just put on? It was 13, okay, so I'll skip down to 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I'm going to tell you to stop there for right this second, just so that the list gets cleared out. And then continue telling you, pick up the first, second, the third, 40th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 31st, 30th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And again, I'm going to tell you to just leave that be for now. Let the list clear out. Okay, and now pick up the actual 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And that should be everybody, but let's just real quick double check. That is correct. I want you guys to then refuel and resupply on Earth because you guys have gone out of your deployment clock because of reasons. And in March, we will get... There you guys go. For whatever reason, them picking people up just kind of seems to have screwed with them, and so they kind of ended up not being, I guess, technically in orbit of Earth for some reason, which is weird because they should have still been orbiting Earth after picking people up. But, you know, game, you do you. And let's continue ticking along. Aha! Another one of them has popped up. Now it's... Yep. Okay, now I forgot to tell Carrier Strike Group 1 to load up their ordnance. I'm not planning to test the ordnance against these guys, I want to note. There's zero reason for me to do that. The ordnance is just so that we have it. Oh, whoops, you guys actually didn't pick it up because I forgot to, over here, tell you to copy from class, copy to fleet. Copy from class, copy to fleet. I need to do the same for the quick reaction forces. Because annoyingly, making changes in this menu doesn't automatically make those changes here. I really wish it did. That would be great, but it doesn't. Let's try that again. Earth is continuing to load ordnance. I'm in no immediate rush. There we go. Now that Earth has loaded the ordnance, let's go ahead and send out here. Follow 175,000. Add move. Actives on. Of course, at this time, If one of these escorts for this guy, or even this guy himself, falls behind, we can't actually board him. For the simple reason that I do not believe the shuttlecrafts are quite fast enough to get down here before they would run out. Plus, of course, they'd have to be able to get back as well, which is part of their issue. Okay, we pick up the Tekka from here on passives. I don't know whose passives it is. I'm guessing one of the planetary orbits. But annoyingly, the game doesn't actually tell me who's picking it up. But it would have to be one of the civilian colonies, I'm guessing, because while we have decent sensors, they're not that good. Are you going to continue flying towards me? Oh shit, there's a second group as well behind them, apparently. We're going to be kind of busy, it looks like. Very, very busy. Cruiser escorts. Let's go ahead and, well, actually I can't because we have lost track of the Tekka. Now we could fire the missiles at the Charug. There's zero reason to, though, because it is literally no threat to us. And that's largely because, as we've noted in the past, or rather as I've noted in the past, it does not have weapons. There we go. Albany, fire on the Tekka. Abercrombie, fire on the Tekka. Share that with the rest of the fleet. Go. Of course, we need to wait until we close ranks a little bit more. There we go. 30-second increments now, 5. Because I don't want to have them potentially decide to turn around at the last possible second and be doing a larger increment, which allows them to close the gap and be able to actually fire on us. We don't want that. 11 hits to the armor. 9 hits to the armor. There we go, first penetration. We didn't get lucky like last time where we had a penetration right out of the gate. Now the big thing is we're not picking up that other group again yet. But of course we're doing smaller increments right now, so okay, the Tekka fell behind. Jasmine Weiser. I'm assuming she's in charge of the Albany, but let's double check that. That is in fact correct. Has been granted the Destroy Hostile Ship Medal, or well, excuse me, rather the Order of the President for Naval Service for destroying a hostile ship. Under her, she also has Lieutenant Commander Edgar Folker and Lieutenant Commander Ivo Serpa, Chief Engineer and Tactical Officer, respectively. The Akagi has nothing. The Akagi has nothing. It's just the commanding officer. Oh, need to update your design, or not your designs, but your orders to fire on the Yaik. Share those with the rest of the fleet. Have fun. Target destroyed. Manuela del Rio Gutierrez, who I'm guessing is in charge of the new Acre, that would be correct, has now also been granted Order of the President for Naval Service. Under him is Lieutenant Commander Van Mia, or I guess it's just Lieutenant Commander Van Micha? I guess Micha. I don't know. And Elena Nekrasova? Sure. Again, Chief Engineer and Tactical Officer, respectively. Again, update your designs. Go for the Charug, and we're going to close the distance because there is absolutely zero reason to stay. So, Carrier Strike Group 1, movement orders, contacts. Charug, follow, 50,000. So long as the Charug continues to have no weapons, there is zero reason for us to not just close the distance every time. Especially since it has tons of armor. God damn, we're having tons of freaking failures while firing. Luckily, we have quite a bit of maintenance on these ships. There we go. Now, we could stay out here. But we don't know when that next fleet will get picked up again, so I think what we're just going to do is we're going to head back. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're just going to head back to Earth, refuel, resupply. And when that fleet gets picked up again, we can react to it. In the meantime, we're going to try to get the assault carrier built. But that's not till March, like end of March, which I'll probably just go ahead and let this part run potentially a little bit long to get us there. And hopefully next part, we will actually get to see the boarding in action. Alpha Centauri continues to go through. Okay, there we go. Ended up actually happening significantly sooner than I expected, largely just because the other fleet never popped back up. I kind of expected it to, and I thought that would slow us down, but no, it didn't. So, BP1. Well, let's go ahead and actually separate you out real quick. So, detach you. I'm going to put you under the first fleet. I don't know if I want to put you in Carrier Strike Group 1, however. I think I want you acting in a similar capacity as the actual ground forces or the transports for the ground forces, in that you're an independent element underneath the first fleet. Oops. And yeah, we'll just call you Assault Carrier Group 1. That way I know that you're the Assault Carrier. And tell you guys to join land on specified mothership as a squadron. Wonderful. And there we go. With all of the Marines being transported. All 40 of them. There we go, yeah. Cargo, ground forces, 10,000 tons. The aliens will never know what hit them. When we inevitably get an opportunity to board, of course. That's who the hell knows how far out. I don't want to send the salvage fleet out to go here because I know there's another fleet out there. We just don't know exactly where. Because they popped up for a second. Or, just during a single increment, and then they never popped up again. It looks like we're having a bunch of medical problems for the commanders of the shuttles. I don't know why. But there's something about our shuttles that seem to have been resulting in the commanders suffering health issues. Okay, that was my timer that just went off. I'm waiting for the game to pause again because it's much easier to just do it then. That way maybe there's something exciting that happens. I can, be like, okay, we'll take care of that next time. But so far it's just been blah. Is the simplest way to describe it. It has just been blah. Wow, we have managed to basically get through the rest of the year from when the strike group finished, or when the assault carrier, rather, finished. And nothing. I know that fleet is out there. We're just not picking it up again. And it's because it's escorting a troop transport. Their engines are fast, but because that troop transport is so damn heavy compared to its escorts, like they're literally under 10,000 tons on the escorts. Our smallest military ship is our destroyers, and they're 11,000 tons. And in this case, when I say ship, I'm referring to a ship that can actually head out and act independently. It's not a fighter. It doesn't have to be tied to something. It can act on its own. Now, one thing I do want to do when we inevitably do another redesign, at least on the cruisers, is to probably actually give them another 15-centimeter railgun. Because, our destroyer has more 15-centimeter railguns than the guided missile cruiser, which is like twice the size. Granted, it does have almost twice the missiles, so yeah. As well as twice the engines, so that it actually is still able to keep up and not slow down any fleet it's grouped with too significantly. The reality is, in many ways, our guided missile cruiser is just kind of a larger version of our destroyers, with all the good and bad that entails. It has twice the missiles of a guided missile destroyer, twice the engines, as I mentioned. It's got one less 15-centimeter railgun. And also, the reality is, this reactor that I'm using on these, I'm pretty sure is overkill. Yeah, I'm using the 23. I don't think I really need a 23 power output reactor, or, two of them. If I really wanted to nickel and dime things to get it as efficient as possible, I would probably just use 123 and then maybe a couple of smaller ones potentially. I was just lazy and just said screw it and just went with a 123 or, 223s. And I think that was because the weight savings was pretty significant compared to doing a single 46. And I don't know why I have this size, this engine power 41. Are we even using it anywhere? I don't think we are. No, I don't think we're using this 40 anywhere. Why the hell do I have it? I don't know. But for some reason we have it. So that's just something we're going to have to deal with, I guess. Is that I have apparently a reactor design that I'm not actually using. I just designed it and then I guess it just kind of got into the mess, into the mix of things. As one of those, oh yeah, no, I'll use that. I won't. I actually won't. Okay, that's going to get us the actual ECM instead of the ECCM. And you know what? Let's go ahead and start getting... cancel that, compare. 28 labs at 20% or 16 labs at 40%. I don't know why, but I feel like the math still works out that 28 labs at 20% is better than 16 labs at 4. I don't know why. I could be wrong about that. But for some reason, I feel like Gracia here is better than Octavio when it comes to getting this research. But I guess we can sort of roughly judge by the completion date with only 3 labs. That is December of some year in the future. And that is February of some year in the future, of course, because I can't see the year, and I'm not going to change my Windows date format. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. You know what? Octavio, I'll let you do it. It doesn't really matter because I'm not planning to design new weapons that would be affected by the capacitor recharge rate anyway. At least not anytime soon. We will probably do it at some point, just not right now because I don't have a reason for it. Until I get like a recharge rate of 10, I can't make our 15cm railguns fire every 5 seconds. If I pull up our 15s, they have a power requirement of 9, which means I need at least a recharge rate of 9 to get the rate of fire down to 10 seconds, which is why right now they're at a 4.5, because that's the lowest I can go in terms of resource cost and still get it at 10 seconds. Everything else I can do above 4.5 is still a 10-second reload, but it is quite a bit pricier in terms of minerals. It's like an extra 6 minerals. For duranium and boronide, neutronium is like an extra, 16 or something? And there's no real difference. So that's why we use the 4.5 right now. Whoops. But yeah, I need to get a 9. Researching the 10 will get us 7 and 8. And I'm pretty sure there's a 10 after that, which would get us 9 and 10. I don't know what the hell we would use a capacitor recharge rate of 10 for, but I guess we could theoretically do it. I guess it would be the larger railguns, because, yeah, the 25cm is a 15 power requirement, but that's literally 400 frickin' tons on its own. I just don't think it's particularly practical unless I wanted to have, like, glass cannons of destroyers, which we could do, but what's the benefit for that? Really? What is the benefit? I would have less guns and a slower fire rate, and significantly more expensive. Which is the reason why I will never do that. We're going to stick with 15, with the exception of our ground forces, which our STOs will use larger and larger railguns, as well as higher velocity. But that is going to be it for this part. I will see you all next time, where hopefully we will find that other raider fleet that was hanging out in the outer solar system. Well, I guess it would be the outer solar system. It was somewhere... No, actually, it would be technically mid. Yeah, technically, I guess that would be mid or inner. Where's the asteroid belt exactly? Double checking. Okay, it's like just outside the asteroid belt. So yeah, we'll just say mid-solar system. There's another one out here somewhere. We just don't know where the hell it is right now, and we haven't detected it again ever since it popped up for a second earlier. But at some point, it will crop back up, and when it does, we will destroy it. And maybe be able to board it, because we're 2 for 2 when it comes to the Tekkas, this part, where we managed to basically kill their engines. We did that twice. Once each with each engagement of the raider fleets. So I'm inclined to believe that we can somewhat reliably knock out the engines on the Tekkas, which is great if we can, because that's the one I really want to board. I want to make sure we have like completely accurate information for it, because it is the one that is the biggest threat to us. The rest of these ships that they have, they're not really a threat. Let's be real here. The drill, it's a Tekka, but like twice the size. And as a result, is probably quite a bit slower realistically. Although I could be wrong, maximum observed speed is only like 10 kilometers a second slower. So I don't know for certain. The drills may be okay, for all I know. The Gatas, I'm pretty sure that's just the new troop transport, and then we haven't seen it again since April of 2125. It's been almost a decade since we last saw it. The Siege, April 2125, never again seen. We have basically zero information for it, beyond an observed sensors of GPS of 1872. Which I don't remember off the top of my head what GPS exactly stands for, but it's basically, the size of the vessel, more or less. Or, what it puts out or something. I can't recall the exact details of it. Oh, it looks like, I don't think we had this information before, but it looks like they're using ceramic composite armor. Well, that's good to know. They're using the nice fancy armor that we researched earlier. So they do have better armor than us. That is confirmed. And that actually does help us confirm how their ground forces have 20 armor. Well, roughly, because the math doesn't quite work out. Because it's definitely not light infantry armor, because if they had that armor, it's 15. Well, powered infantry is 22, but they have 20 apparently. So I don't know how the hell the magic works out, or the math works out there, but somehow they have 20, and maybe those elite infantry were older. I don't know. I've rambled on quite a bit past, so this time I mean it. That's going to be it for this episode. I will see you all next time. Hopefully we find that other fleet that is hanging out there, and maybe those other missing raider ships as well. That would be great. Again, it's been almost a decade for some of them, and they're somewhere out there doing nothing. Probably ran out of fuel by now if they didn't get despawned by the game. Which I don't know if the game despawns the raiders after some time of them not being detected. If it does, that's good to know for future reference. If it doesn't, we may just have some random raider ships that have run out of fuel somewhere out in like the outer solar system, like, way outside past Pluto and shit, for all I know. Because we haven't detected them in a decade, for almost a decade for some of that stuff. Quick reminder, if you want to stay up to date with the channel so you know if there's going to be, missed recordings for like a week or something, I generally post that stuff in the Discord. So if you want to be able to know about that kind of information, I would highly recommend that you join the Discord server. You can find a link to that down below in the description. It's not particularly active. It's mostly there just because that is a fairly easy central location for me to be able to post channel updates. That's the main reason it's there. If people want to be active, they can. More power to them. But it's mostly just because I wanted a nice, easy central place to be able to say that's where I post updates. But I will see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.